you would find options, you'd meet new people that you bump into, and you'd see the world is a place of many, many different looks and races and lifestyles. And, when you're in the bubble at home, it makes me nervous to consider the people that are going to grow up in this world sort of with an insulated mind frame. And so part of why we love what we do is because we're getting people out of the house and we're getting people into community, which I think is incredibly valuable to the human spirit. So that's become a big reason why I'm so glad we do what we do and that people come to us.
I see. That is very admirable for you to be able to create like an event, a gathering of sort where people can share like their love for film and classical movie specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the second question that I want to ask you, like, what category of like classical film consistently draw the biggest audience or people? Yeah.
Horror. I mean, we didn't set out to be the house of horror, and we try very hard to make sure that we continue to keep our programming mixed and diverse. But horror from any era, from around the world, people really gravitate towards horror, which kind of makes sense if you think of a theme park where the roller coasters have the longest lines. People, I think, like to have an adrenaline rush together. Horror is also, there is, with some exception, there's sort of an inherent surrealist nature to horror. And so, like, when we play traditional classics, we generally do very well with more surreal films, fantastic films, visual films. And horror can be very visual, and it can be very surreal, and it can be very fantastical. And so I think that, not just the rush of being scared, but just seeing horror on the big screen and the world building of horror is very attractive as well. So I would say horror is number one, easily. Anime, LGBT films, and then, like I said, sort of more surreal, avant-garde, auteurish cinema that looks good on a big screen, that might be visually rewarding, where you don't want to miss it because you know that it's not going to look the same like when we just did Resurrection, or when we did the remaster of The Fall. There are some movies where the fans are like, Paris, Texas even. You got to see it on the big screen because the colors are so vivid, because the cinematography is so gorgeous. So movies that are kind of known for being visually beautiful do well. But yeah, number one is horror.
Yeah. Whenever people go to like a film studio, they usually want like some kind of feeling out of it. Either like the feeling of horror, where people will feel scared and make comfort each other when the fear appears, or a visually pleasing aspect of the film that is shown to them. So I think that's really good aspect.
It's fear, but it's also the joy of hearing other people. Like if you're on a roller coaster, you might be going through your own fear and you're screaming, but when you hear someone behind you or in front of you let out a particularly hilarious scream or like their sheer terror, you chuckle. It's kind of fun. That's and I think that what I love about when we play horror classics is I'll go to a lot of them because I love horror, and you'll hear someone shriek in some kind of funny way, but like genuinely out of fear, and generally then you'll hear laughter throughout the audience because of how pronounced that shriek was, and then you're shrieking, and so it's like a roller coaster. You're all sharing this ride together, and generally what's really fun is going to see a horror film that you've seen 100 times, and so it doesn't scare you anymore, but you're surrounded by people who are scared. And you can feel their fear. And it's sort of like revisiting a horror film for the first time because you are surrounded by people who are terrified. I love that. I love the mix of people seeing a movie that they have memorized next to people who have never seen the film and are seeing it for the first time and are seeing it and hearing it on the big screen. That community building and that sharing of energy is really huge for me.
I see. Okay. On to the next question.
Mhm.
Can you tell me the process would you choose to film or decide to like select on your studio, like the programming process? Who choose the title and what contract matter most?
Sure.
Cost, screen availability, like license, stuff like that?
Yeah, we have a full-time programmer. His name is Trevor Dillon. He's been with us for, years and years. He started as a volunteer, and just like I could tell, this is our program. And I'll start with, he programs the vast majority of our films. Where that might be more collaborative is he really does open up opportunities for staff and volunteers to make suggestions on films. We play a lot of films every month, sometimes up to 50, 55 titles, because some films will play for a few days, some films will play one night, and we have 2 auditoriums, so there's a lot of kind of like the idea is like, let's be a year-round film festival. So staff, so he always reaches out like, hey, what do you guys, I'm thinking this kind of theme. What do you guys, want to watch? And then by rule, every month we have a volunteer of the month pick. So the staff gets together and singles out one volunteer that they all agree did, for whatever reason, an extraordinary job the last month, and then allow them to program a film that's played for the public. The staff picks. Then outside of that, we really do, and I mean this, and I've meant this since day one, and I think people know this about us, we keep every recommendation that someone makes to play at the theater on a list. So if someone emails us, they Instagram us, would you guys ever consider playing this? We put it on this list. In the restroom, we have a chalkboard where people can write in the hallway to the restroom their film selection picks. And then what we'll do is Trevor will regularly go to that list and look at, more often than not, how do we make a series out of some of the films? So let's say somebody picks Drive, and someone else picked Thief, and someone else picked Blade Runner, and he's reading that, and he goes, oh, we should do a neon series, a series of films where neon is featured very prominently. And then, not the studio, the color, the neon lights. And so he'll be like Blade Runner, Drive, Thief, things like that. Or maybe a few films have a minimalist score, or a few films have some kind of plot line that ties them together. So we'll do series like that. Sometimes we'll just play them once. Somebody recommended Grease 2. We're like, yeah, it has been a while since we played Grease 2. Let's play Grease 2. So there is a collaboration with the community. There's collaborations with the film club members. They have their own Facebook page. They'll sometimes throw up a recommendation in there. And then, like I said, the volunteers and staff. But for the most part, it's Trevor. And he does a great job at looking at monthly programming and being like, okay, do I have enough pre-1950s films in here? Do I have enough? Do I have a couple 60s films? Am I not doing too much, horror? Do we have an LGBTQ film in here? Can we get some anime in here? Something for different tastes and different interests. He's really good at kind of balancing out our programming.
Okay.
And then also, lastly, new films. So we're not going to play Avengers. We're not going to play, the new ones that are coming out. We're not going to play the new Super Mario Brothers movie, partly because it's not a judgment on the movies, but those are opening wide. And our philosophy is if you have access to them on the big screen within like 5 miles, you have access to those films. The other thing, too, is that with new releases like that, we have to hold them a long time, and that limits us from being able to program other things. But we do play a lot of new films that are independent, micro studio, self-distributed. And again, how do we program those? Again, it's an interest of, would our audience be interested in this? Hey, there's a film that's come out from a Korean film that is a thriller or a monster movie or something. Let's absolutely play it. Oh, hey, there's a film from an American distribution company that's a coming of age story that's LGBT. Well, let's run it. So we do take risks on newer films that people are not talking about, that are not plastered on buses. And our hope is that our audience trusts us enough to be like, hey, they programmed that film for a reason. We should go see it. And generally, it's taken a while, but our programming picks that are completely off the radar, generally we get a good audience for them.
Okay, so from what you have told me so far, I think I can say the part that basically travel is like a filter, a person that filter out film from the community that is suggested. And for your student personally, you don't really pick like popular films. You usually try to find like more hidden gems that that you think people will like. That will have.
Well, a perfect example is, we didn't play. So right now, 3 of the films we're playing are One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Weapons. We didn't open any of them, meaning when they first came out, we weren't playing them. But it's been months, and people have asked, hey, with the Oscars being over, would you guys play One Battle After Another again? I didn't see it on the big screen. Or, hey, with the Oscars, can we bring back Sinners and celebrate that? And so we were like, you know what? It's been a few months, and these films have now achieved a cult around them. And that cult wants to either share it with new people or re-experience the film on the big screen. Let's do an Oscar series. So we did One Battle and Sinners, and then we added Weapons. And again, they've all done great. There would have been a time, I think, 7, 8 years ago, maybe even sooner, where it would have been like, they just played and they're streaming, and but now it's like we know that people will come out to experience these movies, to re-experience them on the big screen, and B is to get their friends out who they know haven't seen it yet. Like, hey, dude, now's your opportunity. Sinners is playing at the Frida. Let's all go see Sinners. And so we do play big movies, but not when they open. And we're very selective about that. If, for example, let's use Super Mario Brothers. We played that as the first one is matinees for children after the fact. But let's say that, would we play Avatar? No offense to Avatar. I saw it. I've seen all 3, right? But let's say probably not. But if a sound designer or a visual effects editor or someone who worked on the film is local and can come out for a Q&A, we'll absolutely play it, because then there is an engagement, educational element to it. So we do sometimes play big films, but we just don't open them. We won't do like a 2-week run of a brand new film.
I see. So you have to have like after some like lifeline before you try to sell the film if it were popular.
If we play, yeah, correct. And sometimes it'll even be a film that didn't get a big response, but that we feel like we really want to push and support. Like, folks, Hundreds of Beavers. Hundreds of Beavers wasn't a box office smash, but we love the movie and we wanted people to come out and re-experience it. So we do Hundreds of Beavers every few months, and it always gets a crowd. Stop Making Sense, a huge classic, obviously, but not necessarily a box office sensation when it came out. But we know that there's a joy in watching that film on screen, and people dance around, and so now we do that every few months. So, it's sometimes big box office movies that people want to rediscover, and it's sometimes smaller films that either people want to rediscover or that we want to put our weight behind and say, if you didn't get a chance to see this film, we did a series of films that came out during the pandemic that never got their moment in theaters recently, where people could, please come see these movies. Well, just come see these movies that you may have missed because of the pandemic. So we do enjoy championing smaller films too.
Okay. So on to my next question. I think we are talking time. Have you noticed like different like audience reacting to the film? Like, for example, is younger audience, older audience, or a different demographic that get like more inclined to one film or the other, stuff like that?
I think what's been really exciting is to see how younger and younger our audience is skewing. So, like, for example, I go to a conference every year that's it's called the Art House Convergence Index conference, and we talk about trends, and we all it's all independent theater owners, so we talk about things. And one of the things I keep hearing is, how do we get younger people to my theater? And that was us for a while, but over the last few years, our demographic has really skewed younger. We got tons of high schoolers, we got tons of college-age kids who are out, who are really interested in cinema, who are interested in classic cinema and contemporary cinema. And that has been really exciting to see. Like, we are so proud of that. That younger generations have found a home with us. We've also gotten a lot more Gen X audiences. For a while, it was kind of like college age and like to 30 to 34, but our audience has really, really grown. And I think, again, that's because of the diversity of the films we play. So there might be a film that we play that skews heavily, let's say we're playing Sense and Sensibility or Downton Abbey or something that might skew traditionally towards an older audience. They come see it. Now they're familiar with the theater. They look at our calendar and say, that'd be a fun film to revisit. And so that audience is expanding. In terms of feedback from genres, I think we're more often really impressed by the audiences we get. Sometimes they'll be like, wow, I didn't expect so many kids to this movie. Or, wow, I didn't expect so many older folks for this movie. Or, I didn't expect that this audience would skew so clearly female or so clearly male or whatever. That's part of the joy of just kind of like, that's interesting, because that wouldn't have been how that film was received when it first came out, Then we get little surprises like that sometimes, and sometimes it's, wow, we cannot believe no one came out for this movie, and sometimes it's, I can't believe we sold out this movie. You know what I mean? So it kind of varies like that.
Oh. Okay, so it's like a box of chocolate. You don't really know what audience will like what films. You just know that some people like this, and the audience that you have been having in your cinema have been getting younger and younger. I think that's really a good thing because younger generation now seem to look more at the past, like an old soul, perhaps. Yeah.
It gives me hope because I think I grew up such a film geek and such a film worshiper that with streaming, with TV becoming more cinematic, I was really concerned that the pastime, and there are some things that are dying. Old Hollywood literally is dying. Classic, counterculture 60s, 70s, those heroes, those actors, those actresses. People turn on YouTube and there's a million essays about how the Oscars are becoming more and more of an obsolete thing. So it's been really, really encouraging and exciting every day to talk to high schoolers and college level people who are not just there for the movies and love it, but who are still obsessed with cinema, who will be like, talk about a filmmaker's complete over as they're talking about a movie. Well, have you seen this movie? Where I'm like, I've never even heard of that movie. That happens all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and then I'm writing it down to watch later, That's really, really exciting. That it's not just about going out and hanging out. They love cinema, which is, like I said, really reassuring.
Yeah. From what I'm seeing in my own class, there are like a lot of people who are really passionate about cinema and how cinema affect daily life. There one person in general that I saw in class that I talked to said that after the war in Iran, he was a military person. He used film and cinema to heal his soul and to be able to recover from the war, to connect more to his childhood self instead of like reminiscing about the war. So,
wow. It's an art form. I mean, I think that's maybe to distill it. I think that's been my fear, is that cinema is simultaneously an entertainment vessel. I mean, it's entertaining, but it's an art form, and I think that art form part gets forgotten. When people talk about the arts, they'll talk about painting, graphic art, they'll talk about music, they'll talk about opera. Sometimes they'll include cinema, and I think that's because of the Hollywood system. That's because there is such a thing as popcorn entertainment, and I will eat the popcorn and watch those movies. But I guess that's what I'm getting at, is I appreciate that when I'm talking to people, and I can tell that their love of cinema, might be entertainment as well, but it's clearly about respect for the art form. And And like all art forms, speaking back to your friend, music can be healing, reading can be healing, literature, poetry, food, which is a culinary art. Certainly cinema can be healing. You know, it's my go-to place when I need a pick-me-up. I watch my favorite films. They spark nostalgia. They spark a little, peace and comfort and familiarity. It's escapist, which never undervalue escapism. That's wonderful to hear about your friend. I'm glad that he's found that in the art form of cinema.
Thank you. Moving on to my last and final question. If you have to summarize like why repertory theater matter for film culture in one sentence, what would you say? And why is it that way?
Why repertory cinemas matter? What now?
Like why is it like more cinema, like so like older classical film instead of more modern one like yours?
I like modern films. I mean, we play modern films. It's not. But why does the repertory programming matter? I think it's because, again, we ask almost every time we screen a classic, how many people have never seen this film? People will raise their hand. And then we'll ask, how many people have seen this film 1,000,000 times but never on the big screen? And then we'll see a bunch of hands. And I'll say to them, like, cool, we program films like this for both of you. For people who've never experienced it, and for people who have seen a film, maybe have it memorized, but never had the chance to be on the big screen. And we get feedback all the time, like, my God, I thought I had seen The Shining. That was insane. I didn't notice this. I didn't notice that. I didn't notice certain cues in the music that got under my skin a little bit. I didn't notice how the colors looked. Not everyone has a 50-inch television. 50. Oh my God, I'm aging myself. Not everyone has a 100-inch television, and even those that do, it's just not the same as seeing the film blown up huge, and again, away from distraction. You would hope, knock on wood. We work hard to keep the theater that way. The other thing too is, again, seeing a movie with an audience. I've heard people be like, I've seen this movie a bunch, and I never really thought of it as a comedy. But people kind of were laughing around me, like in a kind of like a healthy, not making fun of the movie way. And I was like, I never really noticed how the Coen brothers left. Every time we play a Coen brothers movie, we played No Country for Old Men, and people walk out going like, I never considered how funny that movie was, and how much irony there was in it, and yada yada yada. And people have been like, I was never scared of this movie until I saw it with an audience, and I could feel their fear, and then I got scared. And so that was such a rush to see a movie and actually be scared by it for the first time. That happened recently, I think, with Hereditary, where people were like, I got to the point where watching it didn't scare me anymore, and then I saw it on the big screen, and I was just like terrified because it recalled seeing it for the first time. I think it's just, we need experiences. I think the human condition in large is one of its tenets is it's hungry for experience. It's hungry to be inspired, to be in community. These are core needs, I think, for humans. And spaces like the Frida are extremely important, at the very least, because it gets people out of the house and into a room together. And then they talk about it afterwards in the lobby and commune and meet. But deeper than that, because it's a place to take in an art form and to engage with the art form, to be sort of in its command. It's towering over you. You're not going to get up out of your seat to check the door or walk the dog or, pick up your phone and play words with friends. Like, it's so valuable to be immersed in an art form. And that is true of live music. That is true of every art form. It's not the same when you're taking it in, like any piece of media you might be scrolling through. Films are an incredible collaboration of a series of different creative types and medias and crafters and costumers and score writers, acting, writing, lighting. I mean, it's mise en scène. It's all an art direction, all coming together to execute one work of art, and that work of art deserves to be seen in the right way.
Okay. I kind of get what you just said. It's like a place to both connect people and to be able to show people the art form, the artistry that were represented in the past, preserving history in an aspect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and there's companies that dedicate to doing that in terms of the films themselves, by archiving them, by 4King them. The National the Preservation that selects films every year to be permanently preserved. I look at it as businesses. You love this ice cream shop. You've been going there all your life. You drive by one day, it's gone. It's gone. The ice cream shop is just gone. It no longer exists. And part of you realizes, like, wow, I thought some things just last forever. Wow. Film itself, the material of film is fragile. We have lost thousands of films that we will never see again over the years because they were never digitized. They were never archived. It was about 15 years ago where you just hear one after the other, a big landfill filled with films because they closed a warehouse down and just tossed all the film in. And it's heartbreaking because these films are forgotten. And I think that, I respect the work that archivists do to keep these films preserved. But I really respect, growing up, I grew up respecting art houses like the Frida. I'm proud to have created a place to join them. I grew up in those houses where we could then come together to celebrate a classic film. I know that this theater exists to make sure that not only this film survives, but the experience of going out and dressing up, getting your popcorn and soda, and sitting down to watch Midnight Cowboy is something you can still do, even if the movie is, 1969, so that's math. 100 years old. I'm joking, but yeah. But yeah, it's across the board, that preservation of both the film itself and the experience of going out to see it are extremely, extremely important to me. And like I said, lately, getting people out into community is very important to me.
Okay, thank you, Logan,
No problem.
for the interview. And I want to thank you again for what Frida Cinema have done to the film community and preserving the art form that they're in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just one more thing right now that you said, the film community, my head just went, well, no, it's more than the film community. But then it dawned on me too that I think a lot of people that come to the Frida, this is from conversations, they haven't said it quite this way, but it occurs to me when you said that, a lot of people don't feel like they have a community. And there is something exciting about realizing that you are part of a community, whether it's film, gaming, whatever it is, because you've been going to these places and you start to realize that, no, I am part of a larger community. My community is people who go to art house cinemas, people who still watch classics on the big screen. That is a community. And the Frida is a very welcoming place. We want people to stick around after. We want people to talk. So I think that's another rewarding element of it, is seeing people, young and old, find community at the Frida. The way they might at a card game shop, at Coachella, whatever. It's interests are very deep. Like some interests, some pastimes, some tastes are very deep and core to one's identity, and it is always exciting to find other people who share those core interests, passions.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting now, and
Okay,
thank you for your time.
Feel free to email me or call me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.